first meeting with him, that he wrote an excellent article on the concept of image in Fichte that I studied with great interest and gain for me. I got a lot of insights this way. So he was a very profound philosopher because this philosophy of Fichte is really difficult, and he worked himself into this matter, and only few people would have done it with absolute clarity. One of the volumes that has been edited on Fichte, it was so good that I later on used it as a textbook for studies. So this is a first impression I can convey. And I didn't have the idea at all of a Marxist philosopher. My image of Marxist philosophers was somehow coined, impregnated by what I'd seen in Eastern Germany. But he was an authentic thinker. You never would have thought he's just a believing Marxist. I think the point was that he got the spirit of transcendental philosophy, where the main theme is action and dedication to action. Also initially he must have been a Marxist because he was not a hypocrite, but his father had a leading position before, and this government really carefully thought about whom to make the chief of the Department of Philosophy, which is of greatest ideological importance at this time in Poland. So for sure he must have presented himself as, in a very convincing way, that he can think like a very good Marxist. But the interesting thing is that obviously by listening to Fichte lectures, I don't know why he came to Germany, but anyway, going there and listening to an elder colleague, after all he was already in a very good position, listening to it, that his mind broadened, his mind got farsighted beyond the Marxian conception, and it turned more and more, as I think, into an ethical concept, not only a class-fighting concept, but it went beyond that to what Marxists always claimed to be humanism. And so I think he developed in this direction of a true humanism. And that must have interested him in Fichte. What came out of him was natural. It was his own nature. He was a very mature man. Whatever he said was not just learned by someone, but it came out of his own mind, and it came out quite naturally, not at all distorted by ideologies. Anyway, what we admired with the Poles were their sovereignty, despite the fact that the Russian had completely control over the state. People had much more inner freedom than in Eastern Germany. Eastern Germany was always like slaves towards the Soviets, but the Poles, why not? They have a tradition of freedom and liberty, and I like that very much. It came out of their own sovereignty, and with him too. We had very easygoing conversations, also with his wife, when he talked something about Poland, how things were running, or he made little subtle remarks on the Polish government. Never fanatical or super critical, but just with mild humor. Very humane the way he presented himself this way. It's a very, very pleasant memory of a man so with inner generosity, clear-mindedness, no fanatism in him. And someone had the feeling he wanted also to justify his position that he certainly received because he belonged to the well-to-do, or his father at least, the well-to-do Marxists. So he was certainly picked from the government. Nothing was not picked by them, that he got this position. And I had the feeling he wanted to justify this position that he came into by just being authentic and not just a puppet of a government. You remember at this time you had this military fellow, Jaruzelski. Everybody made jokes about him. He never made jokes about him. That would, I think, be too dangerous for him. But he, despite of this oppressive government, and in spite of this position where he could have been very repressive, he not at all gave the impression of being repressive, but it was an inner freedom that he had. And that's, I particularly liked it. There was also no resentment, I must also say that. No resentment that you could easily have against the Marxists. He was like sovereign, not attached by it. And when I met him again, there was already the new system, and then he acted as a dean. I told you this story, where he had this black gown and all that, and they appeared as I remember my parents were. It was like old Europe before the war. This beautiful singing and the very graceful reception of Kolakowski's doctorate commemoration, 50 years doctorate commemoration. It was like what you think Europe should be, aware of its own tradition, just confident of itself, but no arrogance in it. It was sovereign, it was beautiful. This is the one thing that amused me a bit, that obviously his Latin was just learned. A good Marxist, as a rule, couldn't know Latin too well, but he had to say a lot of things in Latin because of his position. It was a bit fun. But it impressed me so much because it reminded me of the old songs that I knew that had been sung before the war in Germany too. It was an international song, Gaudiamus Igitur. And to hear this in Poland, it was quite a nice experience.
But his German, I bet, was excellent, wasn't it?
Yeah, his German was very excellent, was very good.
Did he know anything whatsoever about German philosophy that could be new to German scholars? I mean, was there any reason why he was so appreciated in Germany as a specialist of German philosopher?
I don't think that he was a specialist. I didn't hear him talk about Hegel or Kant or so, but I felt that he had discovered the great heritage of German philosophy by his studies of Marx already, and then later on of Fichte, which broadened his mind, and was a position that you could really very well hold in the Eastern Bloc, where everything was changed distorted by Diamat, empty floskels, empty words, and he could present a live spirit without all these expectations that he would have towards Marxist philosopher. Therefore, later on, after the collapse of the regime, he could keep his position unchanged. He just remained as he was before. That was my impression.